Tenants in Maryland want both rent control and good cause eviction protections within the state. But lawmakers are telling them you have to either pick one or the other. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today. It's coming out of the state of Maryland, and it has to do with both rent control and good cause eviction protection. So right now, they're trying to pass these good cause eviction protection laws that basically make it very, very difficult for a landlord to be able to remove a tenant. So it means that if a tenant, as long as they're paying their rent, and they're not falling under these certain small number of categories, you cannot decline to renew the lease. Okay, you have to renew that lease. So even if your lease is only 12 months, the tenant gets to stay as long as they want. It doesn't matter what you want as the landlord. You are forced to comply with this law. And I've told you many times about these good cause eviction protections. I hate them. Now, the other thing they have up in Maryland is this rent control, okay? They call it rent stabilization. Rent control. Stop trying to fool us with stupid words, okay? We know what rent control is. Rent stabilization is not any different than rent control. So let's just call it for what it is. And they basically want to implement both of these things at the same time. But the lawmakers up there are saying, hey, the developers are telling us that this will drive them out of the state. And they're getting scared. They're getting scared, and so they're telling cities and municipalities, hey, you have to pick one or the other. Do you want rent control or do you want good cause eviction? Now, as a landlord, I want neither, okay? I think both are dumb. But if you're talking about which one is worse over the long term, I would definitely say rent control, okay? The only problem I have with the good cause evictions is that they will eventually figure out some way to throw rent control into it. I mean, I've seen some states already do that. This is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument, that to the tenant rights groups, you can never go too far. They don't care if there's no new development in the state. They don't care if every landlord and real estate investor leaves, just as long as their rents are cheap. That's how dumb they are, okay? Now, some of the politicians in the state, I think most of them are pretty dumb because they're pushing for an either-or solution, when I say a neither solution would actually be what causes more housing to be developed, more housing to become available, would be if neither of these things were a law, okay? And the real estate developers in the state are saying the exact same thing. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So if you had to choose, which one would you choose? Good cause eviction protections or rent control where you invest? Like I said, I wouldn't choose either. I would just sell my properties and go somewhere where neither law is in place. That's what I would do. But if I was forced to, probably the good cause eviction protections. God, and it would still suck, okay? Anyway, let's get into this article and I'll tell you what it says. This article is coming from marylandmatters.org, and it says, good cause at a cost. Counties may have to pick either good cause evictions or rent stabilization. Advocates say both policies protect renters, but Senate leadership worry the regulations will drive away housing developers. Let's get into it. Supporters of good cause eviction laws may finally get their bill this year, but it may come at the cost of other renter protections, as local jurisdictions could have to pick between rent control measures or good cause evictions under a plan being considered by Senate leaders. Advocates are going on 10 years trying to get the legislature to make it harder for landlords to kick out tenants without citing a good reason for doing so, so-called good cause or just cause evictions. And we're hopeful this might be the year that Senate Bill 651 finally got out of the Senate committee where it had languished. But Senate leaders say with the state facing a 96,000 unit housing shortage, they fear that too many local renter protections will drive developers away at a time when the state is desperate to bring in new housing options. Of course it will, okay? All they have to do is talk to the developers, talk to the real estate investors out there who are actually building and providing housing. Stop talking to the tenants. The tenants don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what is going to actually cause development, what incentivizes people to develop properties. And I can tell you right now what disincentivizes people, and that's too many laws, too many rules, too many regulations, too many curbs and limits on the amount of profit we make. You know, they don't even know how much profit we can make. They don't even know. They're guesstimating off the top of their heads. They're like, you know what? We think that a 10% rent increase is enough. And I'm like, hey, maybe in fantasy land, you know what? You cannot have some blanket number that is enough for all landlords. Every single landlord, every single property is different. And everyone has their own unique numbers that must be met. Believe me. I've never bought two properties, even ones that are within the same city and the same neighborhood, that have had the exact same numbers. It just doesn't work that way. One property might be under rented while the other one is over rented. One property might be in great shape while the other one is in horrible shape. You get it? Okay? This one over here needs more maintenance than that one. This one over here, you know, like I've had two properties right next to each other that had different insurance costs. I couldn't figure it out, okay? But like I said, every property is different. So having these blanket laws that say, hey, you can or cannot do this or that, that's dumb. In terms of the eviction protections, I don't agree with them because I believe that being able to terminate a lease is one of the best ways for a landlord to be able to get rid of problem tenants, regardless of if they are paying their rent on time or not, okay? And being forced to keep problem tenants in your property when you don't want them there, that's a recipe for disaster. So yes, this will drive up costs. Yes, this will cause more landlords to leave the business. Yes, this will hurt development within the state. And all you have to do is talk to the developers, the landlords, the real estate investors within the state, and they would easily explain this to you. But, you know, you're going off of emotion. You're going off of emotion from tenants. Oh, my rent went up. Oh, they didn't renew my lease, not even knowing the reason they didn't renew your lease, okay? And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let me continue. I'm going to skip down a bit because I don't want to go on for too long in this one, right? But I want to tell you about what the landlords and the developers are saying. And let me find it here. But during bill hearings on the legislation in both House and Senate committees, housing developers and representatives for landlords said they're less likely to do business in areas where they have to navigate a bunch of regulations and renter protections. There are a lot of conversations about regulatory burden that is preventing increase in supply of affordable housing, Ferguson said. Part of the housing discussion right now is that we have too many local regulations that prohibit ongoing investment. And if you look at places like Montgomery County in particular, there is a huge disincentive to invest in affordable housing. There you go, right there, okay? Talking to the developers, talking to those people who actually provide the housing, and they're saying, hey, we don't want to invest in, I believe Montgomery County is the county that passed the local rent control law, okay? And this is why. This is absolutely why. Of course, you know, they don't realize that. They're dumb. They're dumb over there. You know, that isn't what disincentivizes. Oh, yeah, you know, the developer's telling you straight to your face, this is why they're not building, and you don't believe them. Whatever, okay? You just go ahead, you keep existing in fantasy land, and I will keep talking in reality. But anyway, I'm going to put a link to this article in the description. You tell me what you think of this whole situation. Would you rather have rent control, or would you rather have good cause eviction protections if you were forced to take one or the other? Anyway, put a comment in the comment section down below.